Hey everyone, you're tuned into the 12th episode of the Hundreds Greatest Hits. My name is Free J Boozy, and I am here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, to take you through the Hundreds archive. Every Tuesday, we'll pull timeless classics out of the vault and tell you the stories behind each of them, as well as talk to the designers and the creators that brought them to life. While you watch, you'll be able to ask us and other viewers questions about your favorite classics from the hundreds past. You can also hit the shopping cart tab and purchase these one-of-one pieces for your personal collection. Now, before we get into this week's haul from the vault, just want to let you know there's still a couple amazing pieces you can get from last week, like the Blocks tee and the classic piece by Crayola. We'll go ahead and take a look at that stuff right now. Starting with the Blocks tee, OG Hundreds piece, very, very fire. And also, without further ado, Alexander Spit is in the building. I'm going to give our guest a welcoming, special shout out, introduction. What's up, brother? How are you? You good?
Solid.
Cool.
Another day in 2020.
We'll go ahead and give you a zoom. Cool. So Spit, what's good, man?
Man, it's living, bro.
Chilling?
Yeah.
Chilling, man. So it's very, very great to have you on the Hundreds TV finally.
Mm-hmm.
We're running this for about 3 months. This is our 12th episode. So this is
Solid.
every week we're back and shit. But one thing that's really great is you are basically like kind of an authority when it comes to not only brand history on the Hundreds, but just kind of like being part of the Los Angeles and West Coast music scene.
Hell yeah.
So very, very excited to have you here today.
I appreciate being here.
And then just like also on like a separate music tip, you know what I mean? Like we've gotten to work together on like a couple different things over the years, and it's just been like really, really tight to like kind of get your perspective and shit, especially since, you know, this is my own little greatest hit story. So one of the first parties I got to go to in LA, so I moved to LA October 7th, 2015,
Okay.
right? There was a Spit set the later half of that month.
Okay.
Over off of, I think it was like Olympic and like,
It was a day party.
it was a day party,
Yeah.
day vibe at that random venue that was like, was that Olympic?
Oh no, that wasn't a day party. That was off of it was in Mid City. It was probably off of like Jefferson or something like that.
Yeah. And so everybody was like, oh yeah, it's full, like Alexander Spit's doing it. I was like, who's Alexander Spit? And it's like, oh wait, yeah, you're not from here. Like, come on. Yeah, come on, Justin.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and then we got to this like dope ass fucking Hundreds activation. It was like so cracking.
Yeah.
Ended up meeting like a bunch of ladies for the first time in the West Coast. That was all like fucking, oh my God, California.
Yeah.
So I guess just like to start out, like, how did you kind of like get involved with the Hundreds, man?
Man, it's been an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And it continually has evolved over the years, like the different involvements I've had with Ben and Bobby and within the Hundreds.
Yeah.
But
So what year did this really start?
I'm gonna say around 2008 or 2009.
Okay.
I was probably 20 years old, living in San Francisco, and it was like it was right around the time I think the Hundreds post shop opened up. I started kicking it with some of the employees that was working over at the shop, and I basically became really cool with the shop manager at the time, Tony DeGaff, who still works here at the company.
He was over in mixed media now.
Yeah, and honestly, I knew nothing about streetwear. I knew nothing about the Hundreds. I honestly knew very little about most of like LA's counterculture, subculture scene at all. I was just versed in what was going on in San Francisco at the time. And it was around the holidays and I was kicking it with Tony a bunch. And at that time I needed a job and he was like, yo, we got an opening if you want to work Black Friday at the shop. There's a gig for you over there. So I started working at the shop basically from that. And that's literally what it was. My first day was like on one of the busiest days that the Hundreds shop used to have. Like kids was coming in being like, yo, I need the Atom Bomb, like 3/4, like full sleeve hit shirt. And I'd like run in the back and it would take me like 20 minutes to find the shit. I didn't know how retail worked at all.
That's like that whole setup.
But I don't know, it was special, man. That was like one of the first it was the first job that I ever worked where I got to work with like-minded creatives and ultimately got to be myself, for the most part. And I just being in the Bay, it was a cool little, just like, it was a cool time because the hundreds was really getting its reputation built up in the Bay during that era. And I got to be at the shop and got to be like ground zero amongst all of that. And just through that is I just developed a relationship with Ben and Bobby over the years, which ultimately evolved into me moving down to Los Angeles to pursue more ventures within my music career.
And so what year was that when you
That was around
transitioned out of LA?
2010.
Okay.
2010.
And you're from the Bay?
Basically, I grew up out here till I was 10 years old. I moved to the Bay,
Okay.
lived out there till I was about 2022. And then I moved down here and I've been living, basically divvied up my whole life between Los Angeles and the Bay.
So you moved to LA with shifts already locked in.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah. It was cool. Like I trip out, like, years later, I'm here doing something with the hundreds. Like most of my ventures and moves have always like been interconnected with the growth and expansion of the hundreds, and this like it's ran parallel with things I've just done over time. And I ultimately, like you move, a lot of people move to Los Angeles to pursue something, right? I came out here to pursue music, and a lot of the big struggle is needing a spot to live in and a job. And luckily, I had my homie, he had an extra room in his crib, and Rosewood, the shop here in LA, they needed an extra position filled. So it was like clockwork, and I just like landed right into it, and it was easy, So
that's very similar how I actually moved out here too, because I was working at Round 2 when I first moved here. And basically one day they were just like, yeah, we're opening up an LA store, so anybody that can make it out of there will pay your first month's rent and you got a job. And I was like, all right, well, I'll see you fucking next week, I guess.
And it's important to understand how much of like a head start that really
Yeah,
is
that's
for like
really,
being in
really,
LA, because
really.
LA is a crazy city to navigate if you're a transplant.
And then
to be put smack dab into the epicenter of like a new cultural phenomenon, which was streetwear at the time, especially 2010. Amongst that, within streetwear with Odd Future popping off, or just a bunch of just like internet Tumblr era like things happening, like I was really lucky, and I just was like on the forefront, like literally ground zero of that. Whereas it's like, it's on the block. Being on Fairfax is still like that, but during that particular era, it was really interesting because it was like that was when Nipsey used to kick it at the shop with Dom, and Chris Brown would be coming in, Nas would be coming in, and it was like really like it was almost regular, to be honest. Like it was kind of just like a very interesting period, and I was just always inspired by that. So it's like because of that, like a lot of my network within the city of Los Angeles and in music in general was all built off of this that little era of me just working the shop and like pushing my music on the side as organically as possible.
And then, so it's interesting that you say like you were working at the retail location, because
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that, so if you look at like the cultural underground or the framework of any city, especially a city like Los Angeles, like there's something about finding your move, what you're doing that night, who's popping in the music scene, who's designing the coolest shit, who's who's the hottest model, like this and that. All that shit is kind of discussed like on the retail floor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like this barbershop sort of culture where really like the real shit in any city is probably at the dope stores that exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So with my network, exactly, that shit was completely built with just like being on a retail floor. And it's kind of like, there's a lot of frustration with that. You're moving to a place, it obviously is your third, fourth, or fifth care in the world is working this retail job, but you got to stand there. You got to ask if you fucking need a size, if you're finding all this shit. Okay. But what you can get back from that is like very, very valuable. And I feel like people are always like, yo, Justin, what is some advice like to move to LA and shit? And like low key, go tap in with the fucking employees at the stores you fuck with.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
So this is a live shopping network.
Blocks.
Yeah. All right. So Blocks is gone. So Spit, you haven't been on Greatness. I'm not sure if you've gotten a chance to tune in, but this is a live shopping network. So as we're talking about this piece, every Tuesday at 4 p.m., we have a tab on the Hundreds website under the blog that is the greatest hits collection. So we update that stuff with shit from the archive, shit. So just basically a brand retrospective. So right now, if you're just tuning in, you're here with Alexander Spit on the Hundreds Greatest Hits, episode 12. I am Free J Boozy, and we are here taking you through the hundreds vault. Got a really cool curation of pieces. Also, we're going to be talking a lot about Los Angeles music with the one and only Alexander Spit. So this velocity, like I said, we had this one up last episode and it's sold. This was kind of just like a 100 staple. You know what I mean?
Also,
So this one,
you guys should, since you're talking about post, do the post one next because that one is also sold.
yeah. So our producer, the Duke of London, Andrew London, the Duke, CEO of Top Garden, fucking amazing editorial director, our producer here on Greatest Hits, has just informed us that this posted Taylor Street shirt has sold. What's really cool about this piece selling right now in particular is we do have an OG employee of the SF store with us, Alexander Spit. So Spit, you were saying you kind of got your start with just being involved with the brand through DGAF Tony, who is still with the company. He gave you a job at Post, which is at the intersection of Post and Taylor. And so this is supposed to be a rip of the sort of Haight and Ashbury section, right?
Exactly.
So tell us about, I've actually never even been to Post Street. I've only been to SF once. So this one formal thing. So what was the shop? Like what's good with,
This shirt is so ill because especially for us employees, there's always been an ongoing silent beef between Los Angeles and San Francisco and the Bay Area that shouldn't exist, but will always exist for whatever reason.
What is it?
Because a lot of like Bay Areans like to frame Los Angeles in they see it as Hollywood, and a lot of
Bay is very raw.
You know what I mean? And, and Hollywood gets a really bad rap for all the reasons that it should. It's very superficial and whatnot. But that is the worst interpretation of Los Angeles and whatnot. So, with that said, the Hundreds is obviously a Los Angeles brand. So working in the Bay, a lot of us employees and a lot of people at the time had a lot of issues with everything saying Los Angeles on it. So it's like people would come into the shop and be like THLA or the Hundreds Los Angeles. So when there was a collection called the Rosewood Collection, which was kind of like more very curated designs specifically to be sold only at the shops and not sold online.
So Rosewood was only available in store.
Exactly. It wasn't sold online. And that was always for us, those were always the graphic tees that we liked the most because it was kind of less catered to the general population demographic.
You gotta be here to get it.
It was kind of more it almost felt like the Rosewood collection was more designed for me to wear or for my coworker, the employees to wear, based on our weird niches and our weird
and it was also a little more separate or against the tide of the big printable.
Absolutely.
Loud,
It was a less branded thing, which was, for me, that was always a little bit more my aesthetic and whatnot. And this shirt in particular is just really ill. And it's almost like a time capsule to me at this point because so this whole aesthetic is based off of the allure of the intersection of Haight and Ashbury. And at this point, the Bay Area is known for tech and almost a whole city that's been gentrified and it's been completely a whole facelift that's gone into an ugly futuristic direction.
Keep talking. I'm gonna do a detail shot.
Of course, But before the Bay Area was known as being a tech city, it was kind of known as the epicenter of the free love movement in the 70s with hippies and whatnot. And kind of the focal point landmark imagery behind that was where I grew up and spent a lot of my developing years was in the Haight Ashbury district. So this is kind of an homage to just that general 1970s hippie aesthetic on Haight Ashbury and for the shop, which is on the intersection of Post and Taylor. So this is a really cool design that's just a little wink to the camera to born and raised Frisco natives,
Yeah. And so what's really cool about this one, it has an original DS tag on it. So it is DS, of course, always features our greatest hits tag. You seen that?
No,
pretty hip, right?
Yeah.
This piece has sold, going to a new home. Thank you for copying. Thank you for watching Greatest Hits. If you are just tuning in, you're watching Greatest Hits on TV.thehundreds.com. I'm Free J Boozy, joined here with Alexander Spit, and we're going through the vault. of the hundreds. So yeah, episode 12. Let's get right back into it.
We also have Frozen Adam is sold.
Okay, we'll go through photos at Adam really quick. So yeah, it's cool because this is like a live shopping network. So we were thinking about like, you know, like home shopping and shit, like how corny that shit can be.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking about with like all the live stream shit, how can we do this the hundreds? How can we do this in a hip way? And then, you know, we found like so many fucking vintage, like old pieces on this pallet in the warehouse. And I just started going through it and we just kind of like developed this whole show around it. So this is Frozen Adam, based off of kind of like an ice cream graphic, throwback, vintage ice cream, nostalgia, all that shit. And this piece has sold. So no reason to like kind of go too hard on it. Atom Bomb, our main mascot, one of our main monikers here at the hundreds. Yeah, this piece is really great. We'll go ahead and do a detail shot. Cool, and this one has found another good home. Here on Greatest Hits Spit. Yeah, man. All right, so one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, Alexander Spit, is because we were going through all this like old media stuff, and I found the magazines, and then I lifted the stack of magazines, and under it I found The Hundreds Presents Alexander Spit, open 24 hours from 2009. So this shit is so Spit. This is not only is a fucking CD, all right. Not only is it like a fucking CD. Enough said. I mean, if you're like under the age of what 23, I would even say you really don't even know what I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So back before you would stream on Spotify, kids, there were stores that were set up and designated to buy CDs at like a retail shop, right? So there was a store like Supreme that you would go to that only sold CDs. Imagine that. It's crazy shit, right? No, but it's kind of crazy how only 11 years can kind of make a CD seem as like something special now, right? And also this is sealed in plastic. And so a couple things. Also, it's really cool because this has the old office address on the back of it, the Wall Street shit. Yeah. So yeah, just kind of give me like a little bit of a backdrop about how this entire thing came about. So you moved, so you were working at Post, ended up moving down to LA to do the music shit. You come down to LA, you're working at the store. How did Ben and Bobby just like discover your music? Like how did the conversation start?
You know, I mean, prior to even the release of this, me moving to Los Angeles, I've been, you know, independently producing and recording and releasing my own music since I was 10 years old. It was the first time I ever made a tape. And so it's just kind of like,
wait, hold on, sorry. That kind of just went by my ears. You were 10 years old and you did your first tape?
Yeah.
What was the fucking 10-year-old tape like?
Like, it was Eminem was like our favorite rapper at the time. So
yeah,
it was
of
like
course.
A lot of like vulgarity and just things that are stupid.
What did you make the beats on? What do you mean?
We used to have a little tape recorder and we put it next to a boombox.
Yeah, of course.
And then you just hit record and we would hit Tower Records or Sam Goody at the time was the shops. You buy the instrumental CD of any, which was instrumental CD, or like
the instrumental singles.
Singles were always $1, and the single always had the single, the explicit version, the radio edit, and then the instrumental. So we would always buy as many CD singles as we could, and those were our beats, and we would just freestyle and rap. And it was ill. Like that was our way of doing shit.
You know, like you came up through the rap shit, obviously. I came up through the rock stuff. And so it's funny because like that's like the rap come up of how you start to learn. But how you learn to play rock music is by like playing other people's songs or whatever, right? You know? So like our shit was like we learned like Iron Man by Ozzy and like Seven Nation Army and like fucking like all the small things by like and we just like rocked with that. But it's like the same thing where you're like fucking going
for sure
getting the singles. Yeah. Okay, so
but yeah, basically, man. So I was already releasing my own projects independently for a minute, but it was done in such like a grassroots manner where at that time MySpace was a thing. So it's like I was able to upload music online. But any like physical, tangible music was still obviously a thing. But to like, you know, put up your own money for a project was like kind of like a foreign concept. You know what I mean? Like it was literally felt only available to people who were either signed to a label or had access to a budget. So for me, the release of my music at that time, I was literally just creating an album and then buying a stack of CDRs, burning 100 copies, signing them all off, and then trying to print my own artwork, put it into a little CD insert, try to make it look as legit as possible, and I would sell it like that. So around this era, I basically had mentioned to Ben and Bobby that that's what I do. And I was like, because like they were like they would come out to the Bay every few months, and I would have quick little conversations with them, and they obviously wanted to know who was working for them and what they do, and I would just show them a bunch of live show footage I had, and they was seemingly gassed on it and was like, "Yo, let us know what you're doing with whatever future stuff." And at that time, I was really just on my DIY entrepreneurship, and I was like, yo, let me see if like Ben and Bobby will release my next project. And I'm just very proud of it at that time, because that was like, that wasn't really known to like, it was kind of just like you were either an artist that was doing shit as like a hobby, or you were a signed artist. Like the disparity between being like an underground artist and like
It was like
a signed artist was very wide.
Yeah, because like all of these like streaming
because
services,
people
like,
didn't
the
get
accessibility.
there wasn't
there,
YouTube videos that taught you how to record yourself. There wasn't YouTube videos that taught you how to make beats yet. There wasn't like accessible programs that you could get. So like if you had that information, which luckily like I was geeked out on and like knew how to record myself and knew how to do all the shit, I was like, okay, I don't need a label, but and because the music, especially too, I've always been on try to be on some progressive music shit. It's not like I could like present my music to like a traditional label, because at that time, like especially within rap, like 2009 era, it was like a weird like gap where music industry didn't know what the fuck to do with rap, basically. You know what I mean? It was like kind of like the end of the jiggy rap era and like moving into like, we don't want famous people to represent like the culture no more. We kind of want like new perspectives and shit. So basically, I presented this project to Ben and Bobby in the hundreds, and just utilized the hundreds like a music label in regards to having Bobby. But what Bobby did in 2009, he did a very ill blog write up on me, just that said like, "Who is Alexander Spit?" And at that time the blog was booming, especially
It's like one of the main sources for like everything.
for culture, for just like anything cool happening within the culture. And so that was kind of like my first alley-oop into the music industry, and I'm just proud of it because it was like done like in a non-traditional route. You know what I mean? Like again, a lot of people were like, what you said?
Who shot the cover?
My homie Sean Desmond, I believe. I think, but I could be tripping. It's hazy. I don't remember that era too much other than that. But yeah, it's just that project for me is just indicative of a very particular time capsule where the tides were shifting. It was no longer the gatekeepers of the music industry were like, they didn't know what to do. So it was up to creatives and young artists at the time to come up with discover new platforms. And like streetwear and hip hop culture are so parallel anyways, it basically just worked out because I was able to tap into the culture of hip hop through streetwear audiences and whatnot.
Cool. So if you're just joining us, this is the Hundreds Greatest Hits. We were going through what is labeled as the Hundreds Variety Pack. For sale now as part of the Greatest Hits collection. Talking here with Alexander Spit, Hundreds legend, phenomenal producer, very active in the Los Angeles music scene. So yeah, we just went over through his open 24 hours OG 2009 Alexander Spit tape. Also, we have from spring, summer 2010, we have the Hundreds magazine, which was like a whole nother era, right? So yeah, like what was up with the magazine? Did you ever have any like part in any of this stuff, or was it kind of?
There's probably some photos of me in a bunch of these old magazines,
like modeling and shit like that.
I've like gone through so many transformations over my whole life era, and there's probably some photos of me looking completely different than I do now. Those photos, like I used to rock a crazy mustache back in the day.
Yeah, I've seen photos of the mustache.
And there's like
the very strong.
I don't know if it's in that issue. There's definitely, I think it's in the one with Olivia Munn on the cover, which was the first issue. I think this is maybe the second or third
Yeah,
issue.
this is the issue with Joy Bryant on the cover, and it also has the Hundreds X Supermax bandana, which is a bandana that Nipsey actually wore.
Yes,
a bunch
exactly,
in
yeah.
his photograph.
But man, yeah, the magazines is ill. Like magazines are still ill. I hope they never really die out. Print should not really, hopefully not be going anywhere. Understandably, like, we consume most of our media on phones and whatnot, but
There's a lot of value to this.
you can't really beat that. Yeah,
Also,
the
way-
tangible value.
Talking about tangible, the way you absorb information and just like the actual art direction and stuff through like actual physical form.
Yeah,
But coffee table books,
they exist.
all
It
that
still
shit
exists.
is like kind of popping back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean too. And I think people are kind of over the one dimension of just like your phone being the source of like
Absolutely.
everything from where you're eating to how you're sleeping. It's like fucking
Exactly.
crazy. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just like when you're consuming a magazine, the information, the content of a magazine, that's kind of solely what you're doing. When you're like looking at content on a phone, you're kind of doing that amongst 20 other things that you're doing on your phone at the same time. So it's kind of just like that is like a leisurely activity that is like not really done anymore, but it's ill, So and at this time, like it was basically the blog, Bobby's blog, put into print format, and he was like, he was interviewing different influencers at the time. Obviously, there was product and a lot of the product that existed in the magazine was stuff that wasn't going to come out for like another year or so. So it was a cool little way of like teasing the product that was like on the horizon and whatnot.
And then honestly, like they were very, very ahead with this sort of format too. Like you were saying, like just really, really great marketing assets in general. And also there's just kind of like this moniker written on the side: "Don't hate the media, become the media," which is like very, very Bobby Hundreds. You know what I mean?
I think that's
like
a Jello Biafra. What's his name?
Jello Biafra.
Jello Biafra. That's like a quote.
Lead singer of the Dead Kennedys, who also ran for mayor of San Francisco.
I didn't know that.
So viewers, go Google Dead Kennedys, Jello Biafra. It's kind of a weird name, but he's the lead singer of the Dead Kennedys. He ran, so Dead Kennedys is a 70s punk band. Wealth of inspiration, just fucking sick ass band. If you're ever trying to find any good punk recommendations, Google the photo, San Francisco mayor, Jello Biafra, and they're on fucking like City Hall steps with like all these pickets and shit. It's fucking wild. So yeah, this is the 100 media pack, and it comes with Alexander Spitz, open 24 hours, spring summer issue 2010, the 100 magazine, and then also 2 mixes from the very, very legendary The Mike B, DJ Mike B. And also this one's really funny because this one's hosted by Scotty Ill.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you tell us a little bit about who Mike B is, man?
So Mike B, so this was like right around when I started working with the Hundreds. He was a local LA DJ at the time.
We've done nights with him at the Friend Bar in the past.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
So before everything got shut down, Spit was actually we would Blondie Beach Records would get to team up with Spit on some nightlife, and we low key, man.
Yeah, we had some good ones.
We had some good ones, man. We had a good Bar Lubitsch night.
Yeah.
Remember, we had a couple really, really banging Friend nights. Remember when the trio played the Friend?
Of course.
It was the trio, and then fucking Bryce and Errol and you DJ'd also.
Yeah.
Didn't Keen? No, Chad DJ'd.
Yeah.
We got the sig.ext DJ sets.
But Mike B, he was just, he was an LA staple at the time. Like the way LA nightlife works, this like, not like it's exclusive for a certain roster of DJs, but there's a roster of DJs that are booming at any given time during every couple of years within LA. And DJ Mike B, I think around the era of probably like 2006 till 2010, and still now, obviously, but like especially during that era with the development of the Hundreds, he was kind of like in the mix for that. And so yeah, they would put out these little tapes, drive-by bangers, which was I think basically just like straight West Coast California culture shit, and it was like, it was just ill mixes, and which also at the time was very much so a thing. Like DJs would that was kind of DJs like business card was making a mix. And back when, like nowadays it's kind of like, obviously there's live mixes and there's nightlife and stuff, but that was like a DJ's way of like having like tangible merch.
Yeah,
Basically.
it was also like it just seemed a little more intentful. Where now, so this is like the era of this DJ shit for me. It's like DJs like Mike B, DJs like Sean G, DJs like you, like it's like y'all got involved in this shit before being a DJ became like this. I need to be a DJ in order to be cool and to be seen as this like complete package. You know what I mean? Because it's like for me, it's like yeah, everybody listens to music, but just because you're like a clothing designer, just because you're like this or that doesn't mean like you necessarily need to be a DJ. So when I look at this, I see it more of like the intentful craft of like putting together a thought.
Oh yeah, this was
you know what I mean? It's like this is like more of the craft rather than like the image.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the most frustrating parts about like the Los Angeles nightlife scene and DJ scene is like people are being DJs to not play music but to like be on.
Of course, because it's almost like an accessory to their current identity.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's just like that's also what else bothers me when you take somebody's like when you try to make somebody shit an accessory to like your thing. That's like when the jazz shit started popping up in LA and it was like kind of a trendy thing. I was fucking hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, yo,
well, I did not if anything without being too like clear about it. I mean, actually just being straightforward, it just fucks up the market. You know, when there's a lot of people who ain't really about it, and then they start like offering their services
for cheaper,
for like damn near nothing, you know, for a couple clicks or retweets or something like that. And then it gets into people's head that that's the market price for this type of service, when really the craft of DJing is like, that's an ill craft to like be able, it's not easy.
Also then like being around long enough that you know the struggle and this process of like cutting this fucking thing out and like burning the CDRs. I mean,
Mike B in the building watching.
Mike B in the fucking house. Mike B. Mike fucking B. We were just talking about that night we were hanging out with a friend. I'm pretty sure that's the last time I saw him. Also, we did the Fresh Drive. Yo, Mike B, do you remember that fucking Fresh Drive party we did at Bodega when Mariscos Jaliscos was cracking? And you were doing a fucking set, my guy. That was crazy. So, what's his Instagram? I'm pretty sure it's the Mike B. Mike Green, can we get a check for that? What's his Instagram?
Just tell him to drop a link to his IG in the Hunters TV chat.
Yo, Mike B, if you can drop a link of your Instagram and your wherever people can find your music in the chat box, we'd love to share that for you, man.
So Styles T gone.
Styles T's gone, so I guess we'll go into that one next. I almost forgot we're actually like on the shopping network. I just kind of ran with you about music this episode. So if you're just tuning in, you're watching Greatest Hits. You're watching Greatest Hits on tv.thehundreds.com. I am Free J Boozy, your host here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Today I'm joined with Alexander Spit, taking you into the Hundreds archive, taking you through the brand history, taking you into the retrospective. So this tea has soul behind us. This is Styles tea. So a few months ago, we did a collab with Liz Beecroft that actually did so well for us, and we were able to spread a lot of awareness for mental health. And that in particular was Adam, a bunch of different moods of Adam, right? So angry, happy, sad, joyful, jealous, all of these certain things. So that kind of came from the origins of this t-shirt, which is the Styles t-shirt. And so what's cool about this is it's our main mascot, Adam, but the cool interpretation of this is the Hundreds has always been a platform that wants to blend and bring together different subcultures, right? As you can probably attest to with how many fucking events of different scenes and shit we've done with Spitset, for instance, right?
Absolutely.
And so for this, it's like really cool because, you know, well, first of all, the Danzig Adam is the hardest, probably the hardest design in all of brand history, of all of the Hundreds brand history, is the fucking Adam Misfits Danzig rip. And we'll give you a detailed shot of this in a second. But yeah, it's just like a bunch of different hairstyles and different vibes that kind of encapsulate Los Angeles subculture. And yeah, some punks, some thugs, some chillers, some thrillers. You know what I mean? So we'll go ahead and give you a detailed shot. Again, this piece has sold, and if you're just joining us, you can always check out what's for sale with this episode 12 of Greatest Hits on the shopping cart tab. My producers are nodding at me like I'm doing a great job hosting, so I think I'm getting the point across pretty clearly. We're going to go ahead and give you a detailed shot of this piece.
You can also hit the checkbox tab to register to vote.
All right. Motherfucking Danzig Adam. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful? I have not. Also, there's just like classic Adam. Yeah, this piece has sold. And then also, while we're on the topic, make sure everybody is registered to vote. We actually have a checkbox on the side. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, next to shopping cart and chat, there's a little checkbox to register.
All right, so next to the shopping cart and the chat tab, we should have another tab that will allow you to register to vote. Regardless of political preference, how you feel or whatever, it is a democratic right to exercise that everybody should exercise all across the planet, regardless of your political preference, because your voice deserves to be heard, and we want your voice to be heard here in America because we live in an apparent democracy. So, so yeah, everybody registered to vote. Styles Tea has sold. Going to a great new home. See, so we've been moving products, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We've been moving the product, bro. We'll go ahead and just kind of go into the heavy hitter. One thing that's really cool about this t-shirt is Bobby Hundreds just switched offices, and he had just kind of like a rack of specialties over the history. And he's all about like kind of like drastic change a lot of the times. And so he's like, Justin, get greatest hits, go. And he's like gave me a bunch of teas and shit. So this is straight from the Bobby Hundreds rack in office. OG Paisley. What's really, really cool about this is the flaws, in my opinion, because it kind of shows you, one, the way, the place that the brand was in at the time. You know what I mean? You know, sometimes when you're dealing with production, you're dealing with masses, mistakes happen. Sometimes you have to cut certain corners because.
What are you talking about, like the print on the?
Yeah, like the print on the sleeve is fucked up. Like there's like a seam right here where the print didn't go all the way on the back. It's like a little fucked up right there. But this is like that OG, like actually in the streets, streetwear. Like this is streetwear before it was fucking called streetwear. When this was just like a community of people dropping fire clothing and shit. So this is the OG Paisley, kind of like the 100 staple. This is basically the first time I ever heard of the brand was like an association of this shirt on the fucking 100 blog on the other side of the country. Were you working this drop or anything?
Nah, this was like right before my time, but yeah, this is, you know, you can't go wrong with
You can't go wrong. You also like, you know what this is for sure. Like this is one of those like, you know, there's certain street, and that's one thing that's cool about the 100s is like there's certain things and elements of the brand that like are very distinctly it. For instance, have you ever thought about like how everybody knows that the Atom Bomb is the 100s, but it doesn't actually say the 100s?
Of course,
there's no other brand in streetwear that's like that. Also with this Paisley, like you look at this, you kind of know the time and place it came from.
Of course,
This is actually only the second one we've had on this show. We had all the way in episode 1. We are in episode 12 now. We sold a size medium in navy. So this is the purple on pink.
And plus like that style of, I mean, it was called all over print, right?
Yeah,
all over print was like, it's so indicative of that time period.
You know? Like, it was like very that time.
Yeah, right before 2010, you know, I feel like everyone wanted the all over print joints, you know?
It's that vibe, man.
Yeah.
All over print kind of had another resurgence in like 2015, 16, like, I don't know, just like, I mean, you saw me walking around like wearing like crazy ass all over print overalls, thinking I'm fucking cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we'll go ahead and give this one a detail shot. It looks so fucking vibrant on this camera too, like Jesus. Cool Paisley tee for sale now on the 100 Greatest Hits here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Free J Boozy with Alexander Spit. Taking you through this week, episode 12. Thank you to everybody who has supported 12 fucking episodes of Greatest Hits. Really, really appreciate it. We love storytelling here at the 100s, and we love sharing these archive pieces with you, the viewers. This wouldn't happen without the viewers. So thank you very much for everybody tuning in on the back half of your day or the beginning of your evening with myself, you know? I think I'm a pretty nice guy. I would want to spend an evening with you, hopefully. You know what I mean? Fuck, like.
On a roll.
All right, what do we got left? I think we got this joint. So.
I don't think I've ever seen this tee.
Okay, so this one is like kind of, it's pretty funny. So this one was a rip of Ban This skate video, Powell Peralta. Tony Hawk's actually in that video. It's like some old school skate shit. So this is literally just like a rip of the front graphic, right, of the cover art.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a good hundreds moniker. Followers of the old school, just kind of like, paying respects to your elders, not acting like you fucking invented the wheel. You know what I mean? That sort of shit, which is like really, really lost in translation. I feel like younger generations, like Gen Zs, and I hate to even talk shit on like other generations because it actually doesn't really fucking matter. But like, I feel like you kind of come from the same cloth where we really, really hold things in the past in high praise and like kind of like really gain a lot of like information and knowledge from like studying those things and like also want to look into the root of things. Like for instance, your experience with music theory right now. You know what I mean? Like you're in the studio, you've been producing for 11, 12 years, but now you're getting into a place where you're going back to music that was written in the 1700s, 1800s, and truly learning the past, right? So the hundreds is very similar with tapping into the brand history and just kind of like, the early surf shapers that kind of shaped streetwear, New York's influence from the 70s, all of these different influences, and understanding how they all piece together and not just like, oh, this fucking shirt's cool, like let me throw it down, like really learning like the brand history. So I feel like even though this is a rip, I feel like this shirt kind of represents that. Also, very, very funny. So when the hundreds beef was very, very real, there's a photo of Terry Kennedy burning the shirt. He had like a diamond shirt and the shit was just like on fire and shit. So Terry, if you're watching, we forgive you, man. Let's get a drink. You know what I mean? Let's maybe see that famous kickflip crook of yours. You know what I mean? Like, it's all good, brother. It's all good, man. So yeah, this is for sale now on Greatest Hits. We're calling this one the Old School Tee. Couldn't really find an exact title, but we do know the general basis of the influence of the design. So we'll go ahead and give you. Also, shout out to Big Sando, Sandy Mosqueda, if you're watching. She modeled our new lookbook that's going to be debuted for the Artist Series Bandana. I'm actually wearing one of them right now. So this week, our release is the Artist Series Bandanas, which we have commissioned 4 artists to all have an interpretation of a bandana that we're going to be selling as a collectible item. Also, proceeds go to charities. And so shout out Greg Ito. I have the Greg Ito one, but Sandy is actually modeling this shirt from the Greatest Hits collection for the lookbook. So it's tight, man. If you ever need, all stylists, man, if you need some OG hundreds, hit me up, man. If you need 1 shirt, hit me up. If you need 10 shirts, hit me up. But yeah, we're gonna do a detail shot from this. And of course, classic little bomb hit on the back. This one's for sale in the 100's Greatest Hits. I think we only have one more spit. Yeah, so this one. So this is like, it's like kind of fucking absurd how OG this one is, right? So this is the Being Hundreds tee. So Being Hunted was one of the first quote unquote streetwear blogs founded in 2001. They actually did one of the first write-ups about the hundreds in general, like ever.
This is a collab shirt?
This is the collab shirt from that. And also if you look at the tag, it's like OG shit. So this one's for sale on Greatest Hits now. And so essentially Being Hunted, if you are a fan of like OG streetwear shit, how do you say, Jorg Haas was the guy who ran Being Hunted, and he actually featured the brand's lookbook on the site. It was some of the very, very early press that was ever done about the hundreds. Also, some of the very, very first blogs that were even about streetwear in general. So this is pre-Hype Beast, pre-Complex, pre-High Snobiety, like the holy trinity of fucking streetwear press, I guess you would say. Am I missing anything, Mike? Mike, also shout out Mike Green, our wonderful in-studio producer, helping us every Tuesday here. Go check out Mike Green at Mike Green, MyKegreen. Check out his music on all platforms, I assume. Go check out that man's shit, man. Go support him. Because we support Mike. We love Mike. Being Hunted. And it's also crazy because just like, if you think of like early blog format shit, like blogs are like not really like popping like that. So people were ahead enough on the curve to like be covering this stuff. Now, when you open up your phone, fucking 80% of the media you see is like somehow tied to streetwear. If you follow Complex, Hype Beast, High Snobiety. So Being Hunted is the OG. Actually, their entire archival stuff is up. So they have every article posted from 2001 to 2015 when the magazine was active. Bobby just wanted to share us a few stories. He ran into this guy at Paris Fashion Week about 2 years ago, and they kind of just like reconnected and just like were recounting about this shirt. And if you look at the label, A1, what year is this guy? So we have 0405. So this is the 0405 tag. Daniel Awad, one of our special guests, reoccurring special guests on set, but not on camera today. Shout out Awad. Thank you for all of the preparation he has done for the back end. So these pieces are available for your purchase on Greatest Hits. This is the Being Hunted piece for sale now. Go ahead and do a detail shot. Also, one more point about the design. There's a very, very good Western movie from 1980 called Magnificent Seven. This graphic is based off of that. The inspiration for the design came behind Jörg Haas from Europe, and he said, hey, I want to do a Western rip because you guys are a West Coast brand. And Bobby was like, bet, let's run it. And this is the product of that. So this is for sale now on Greatest Hits. And so I'm going to do my little outro now. So I have a little intro, outro, you know what I mean? It's a real set. Hey, you know, Spit, here on Greatest Hits, man, we got some production value to this shit. I ain't going front, you know what I mean?
It's crazy.
All right, so that's it for this week's episode of Greatest Hits. Thank you, Alexander Spit, for joining us today as today's special guest. Very excited to have you on the show, hear your perspective about the brand. And thank you to every single person who copped a piece today or tuned in general. 12 episodes, keep going. I'm gonna keep doing more. So we're past the mile of our 10th episode. Now we're gonna go to fucking 50. And yeah, you can actually check us out every Tuesday here, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. tv.thehundreds.com. You can hit our app or the online store and get any of these Greatest Hits pieces that you've seen today. And also, shout out Dom, shout out Crime Club, shout out Mike B, fucking Mag B, shout out Fantastic Four, shout out I'm Drunk, shout out RDG, Daniel and Gabriel in the THTV chat. We appreciate you tuning the fuck in, especially Mike B. We got to get up. What's good? I just got a studio. DM me on Instagram. Let's get some shit popping. Love you, G. Thank you for being a mentor. Everybody, thank you for checking out Greatest Hits, and we will see you next week here.